Do you want to be the go-to leader in your industry? Do you want to be the recognized brand that's seen everywhere by your target audience? That's what we're talking about today, right here, right now, the start of season 2 of On Air Brands.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
What is going on, everybody? I am Todd Giannattasio, the new host of Season 2 of On Air Brands Live, and I am so excited to be here and talking to you guys. But, you know, I do feel kind of lonely being here all by myself. What do you guys think about bringing up some familiar faces, maybe?
What? Todd?
Mr. Carey?
What is going on?
Mr. Cabral? What are you guys doing here?
No, what are you doing
Exactly. What the heck's going on here?
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for teaming up with me on these first few episodes of the season. Super grateful to be here, to be hosting the show, and to be going through this with you guys. You know, my brothers from another mother's, as Erik likes to say.
He does.
But yeah, this is great. The show is going to be awesome. And to let everybody know what's going on here is Josh and Erik. If you guys have not subscribed, they have created a new show, the PodMax Podcast. So make sure you're following that, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your favorite podcast, right? So they've moved on to a new channel and feed. Still same bat time, same bat channel. If you're catching it live on Wednesdays at 11, they're going up, or obviously catch the recordings at your convenience. But we didn't want to just let this On Air Brands community and show fade away into the distance. We weren't quite ready for that to happen, right? So I was blessed enough for these guys to come to me and start talking about picking up the ball and continuing on with On Air Brands with the mission of really staying focused on helping businesses, entrepreneurs get their business into the modern world with creating media, creating your shows to grow your business, you know, putting out regular content. How do you use modern day media to grow a business? Because, you know, like the famous Gary Vee quote says, if whatever business you're in now, you're in that business plus the media business, right? And if you want your business to exist today, you need to be publishing content and exist online, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about throughout season 2 here. And today particularly, we're going to be talking about how do you align your business growth objectives and goals and your business model with integrating media, a show, creating content into that so that it is helping your business grow. And that's what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be very meta these first few episodes because as I have my partners here with me, we're going through these exercises that we're talking about, starting off with how do you set goals that align with business and media together to grow. Then in the next couple episodes, we'll talk about how do you define and articulate your ideal audience so you can build a great tribe around your brand like Josh and Erik have been able to do. And then, you know, how do you take that stuff? How do you come up with topics for episodes? How do you distribute your show in a way that's going to help build your business, attract your customers, all that kind of good stuff? That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking through how you can do it while we are actually doing it. So these first few episodes with the three of us are going to be very meta and very practical for you guys. And of course, we wouldn't be great content marketers or great resource for you if we didn't put all this kind of stuff into a free resource for you guys. So if you go over to onairbrands.com/show, you will check out our new show hub, which will have our most recent episodes. You can sign up for the email list and you can sign up for the free guide that's going to help you launch and or grow your show to help you build your business. So with that said, guys, you know, welcome back to the On Air Brands show.
Absolutely incredible introduction of this. Can you just, you know, a minute or so orient us? Who are you? Where do you come from? What do you spend your time doing when you're not in this little box here?
Well, it was back in the mid 80s, Josh. So, you know, this is a good story to start with. Erik actually had never heard it until the other day. It came up in conversation. And the way that I discovered the power of content marketing, publishing videos on a regular basis, happened kind of by accident. And then after I discovered that, I went off and I created my own agency, Tresnick Media, in 2011. And for the last, 10 years, have been helping other companies really launch and grow online by creating and publishing content. I went on a little binge after Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey here. Everything was wiped out. All my clients were shut down, no income, right? All the businesses are down. So I said, look, it's time to drink my own Kool-Aid. And at the time, 2011 was a lot more blogging than it is video. And so I wrote, published, promoted 2 blog posts every day for 5 straight weeks.
Whoa.
And through doing that, I grew my audience tremendously. All of these new content assets started ranking on Google, getting found. I started attracting clients from all over the country. I started getting featured in places like Entrepreneur and Forbes, Business.com, Huffington Post, all that kind of stuff. And so the content creation and media side of the business that we've been helping clients with is really kind of what gave me the platform to launch the agency. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, through client services, through our own side brands and stuff like that. And, was fortunate enough to partner up with you guys, last year, and here we are today.
Love it.
Yeah,
it's all good. I love the meta portion of what you're about to present to the audience, because who isn't a fan of Ferris Bueller? Where it's like, breaking the fourth wall and winking, as Josh and I always like Roper, Mr. Roper from Three's Company, throwback there, where it's like, we know what we're doing here and we're showing you what's going on behind the curtain in real time. So we're going to actually be building this show, talk about pivoting, reinventing, refreshing the On Air Brands live show to have a very intentional sort of path to building the business. And you're getting the zeros and ones. You're getting the blueprint right here with Todd. And we're looking forward to it, man. I can't wait to learn everything that you're about to share.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm very pumped. And, and following Josh along, as Josh is the incredible MC and Segue King. So again, if you guys aren't subscribed to the PodMax podcast yet, please make sure you go and subscribe to that and listen to the end of the episode, because the way we kind of transitioned everything, there are great lessons in just modeling what these 2 guys are doing. And I'm so excited to just follow in your footsteps and learn from you guys too.
So cool, man.
Take it away.
Happy to have you.
Yeah. All right. So that's what you guys can expect from, the beginning of season 2 here and all along. Is our mission is to help businesses and entrepreneurs grow through podcasting, videos, shows, and creating media content. Right. And today we want to cover around, a business that has a show versus a show that's trying to be a business. Right. And that's something that's come up a couple different ways for me recently, people reaching out because they see what I do in creating the content that I have been a guest on your guys' show. I've been on a bunch of different shows and had my own shows over the last couple of years. And it's interesting to see that some people come from the other angle where they're like, I just want to create content, and they don't think about how to make money on that. Right. Like they want to take their passion, put it online, and somehow make money. And that's great. But what we really want to focus on is helping businesses that currently exist achieve their goals through having a show and podcasting and that kind of stuff. And that's really what On Air Brands does, right? Erik is helping companies produce that kind of stuff. And what I'd love to hear from you guys and then come back to me is, how do you guys see and help and have seen successful companies integrate a show into their business, not just because they wanted to create a show, but because it's actually aligned with their business?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to sort of educate clients and people out there who have an established business, who isn't in business, that isn't trying to grow their reach, their audience, their clients, their customers. So when we often talk to clients and they're like, I want a podcast, the question is always why. And then we do the 5 levels of why. I want to show because everyone. Well, why do you want to do that? And we dive in deep as to the true reasons. And if it makes sense, and the mission is ultimately, hopefully, to serve others and offer value through the content, that's really where we try to educate our clients to say, hey, you have to produce this content to, as Gary Vee always says, jab, 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 right hook, just offer the value, and then they will come potentially as a client or a customer. So then once they understand how and why it works that way, then we're like, okay, let's hit the ground running. Let's create this show for you. Ultimately knowing that the show will turn into a business because you're going to have to operate it. There's going to have to be teams. There's going to have to be systems and processes in order to make it efficient, and or just hire on-air brands. We are that team. You outsource it for, for yourself. So
Yeah. I love that. And Josh, what's your take on it?
Well, I think individually, Erik and I are at least our own case studies. We both came to the industry separately. We came to PodMax separately and then created what it is today. But we both used our own individual podcast for the support of our business, not the other way around. And I know a lot of our clients fall into that. Erik, I know you could speak to about Josh McCallan, a very prime example. Kathy Sharp Ross is a very new example. We're now working with her and producing her show. So they both they both already had majorly successful businesses already up and running, and saw creating a podcast as in support of their needs.
Yeah. And what I want to tell is the story of the opposite. When you are creating a bunch of content and it does build you up and it does attract an audience, but you don't have goals or vision for how it helps you, and then you've wasted a lot of time spinning your wheels. And this is the importance of having intention and strategy before launching a show. So the way that I discovered the power of online video and all that stuff was back in 2009. I got for Christmas this beautiful little flip camera from my parents, because at the time, cell phones didn't have cameras on them. Most of them didn't, right? The iPhone didn't. And it was like the coolest pocket-sized camera. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Me and my roommate loved it. We're like, this is the coolest thing. I'm flipping the USB plug up and out and blah, 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 like playing with it, turn it on, turn it off. Oh, look at this. I push this record button. And then, after 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, twiddling my thumbs, like, I'm not a Josh Carey. I'm not a professional actor and, performer. I'm not in this video camera business because I want to create movies or be a director. I'm just a tech geek, and now I have this thing. Now what am I going to do? And so at the time we were, in our mid-20s. So all of our meals were out at fast food or at the bar, basically, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so we had gained a lot of weight. We were living an unhealthy lifestyle, and we were pissing away a lot of money by spending all this stuff. So we wanted to learn how to cook. So I said, you know what? I'm a geek. I'm in online, in the online world. I build websites. Why don't I whip up a quick WordPress site and let's start recording ourselves making cooking videos. And so we did what any smart 25-year-old does. We went to Bottle King and we got the finest $11 bottle of whiskey that they had on the shelf. And we said, all right, we want to learn how to make meatloaf or chicken parm or fried chicken or whatever it was. And we Googled it. We found a bunch of different recipes. We flipped on the camera and we drank a bottle of whiskey and we learned how to make all these different things. I threw them into iMovie, cut them down into 5-minute little videos, put them onto WordPress, and that was it. We just side project. I'm living the cubicle life. I'm not entrepreneurial quite yet. And a couple weeks go by, and I get an email notification from YouTube that says, so-and-so has commented on your video. And it said, oh, this is hilarious. And it actually came out great. Thanks for the tips or something along those lines. I said, Greg, who is, username, Funny Bunny 92 or whatever. And he's like, I have no idea. I'm like, no, dude, they commented on the video here. They must be one of your friends. They're not one of my friends. And he's like, no, I really don't know. And I look at the stats and, we got thousands of views in like the first week that we put this up. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And so over the course of about 2 months, 3 months, we put up like maybe a dozen or so videos. And we were at the top of Google for easy recipes for beginners, easy recipes for meatloaf, easy recipes for chicken parm, easy recipes. And so we were getting just tens and tens of thousands of visitors to our website. Now, one, I wasn't that entrepreneurial. And two, when you're, splitting a bottle of whiskey every night doing this as a project, you're not thinking about having business goals aligned with this. And so I didn't know anything about list building, right? I didn't know I was supposed to be growing, but having an email sign up and offering people to get on a newsletter or anything like that. And so we just were pumping this out. It was a fun side thing. Greg ends up getting a job in another state, so he leaves and moves. My cameraman quits, he's gone. So it fades away. And for a year, though, we were getting just thousands and thousands of views, website visitors, all this stuff. And I let it die out. And then, like 2-3 years later, I'm like, man, and of course my family and friends, everyone's like, oh man, remember that thing? That was so cool. Like, why don't you ever pick that back up? Well, at that time, although we did still have some Google rankings, which just eventually over 3, 4, 5 years faded, I had no asset for my business because, we published that stuff and we got a ton of traffic for a few months, but I didn't capture any of it and I didn't turn it into anything and it was gone. Now, if I had entered into that with a little bit of a different mindset where I just knew, all right, well, if I can build an email list, I can have an actual audience and that would be an asset for me that I can now nurture a relationship with. And they'll see every time I publish, I'm not publishing from scratch, but I'm publishing to an audience of people who are interested in what I'm doing. And then these people have rapport. Now they're going to be interested if I say, hey, I just bought this air fryer. You should go get it because it's really great. They're going to use my link to go buy it. And then maybe I can come out and sell my own products or whatever it could be. But building your audience as an asset is huge. And I tell that story, one, because I think it's kind of funny, but two, also because if you enter into the show business here that we're talking about, without an intention for how your content and show will align to grow your business, you could see tremendous success from a media standpoint, eyeballs, lots of eyeballs. But if you're not in the business of eyeballs, that's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I want to add, and it's such a great story, and if you want to check out, you could find Todd, who's young and you told me you were 200 pounds. But
I
didn't see it.
Much heavier.
I
carried it well.
You did carry it well. So, but the thing is, I wanted to point out because I'm in this, high flying sort of strategic mind at this point in terms of like strategies and the idea of a business starting a podcast with the goal at first to build an audience, listeners, which can potentially become clients. Well, if you think about it from the outside, if a business is looking to acquire yours, well, that's like what Todd said. It's another asset within the business that is generating listeners, income, just revenue. And why wouldn't you create another sort of vertical within your business that has value, intrinsic value, that now you can say, hey, it's like having a house and you put an addition onto it. Well, now your house is worth more. So if you have a business, why not add this piece where it's got its own legs, it's got its own system, it's got its own sort of rhythm. Now you're like, hey, you want to buy my carpet company? You want to buy my roofing company? Whatever it is. Yeah. Well, we had this podcast that has 100,000 listeners, and hey, maybe you carve that out as a separate entity and sell that. Say, hey, you bought my company, you didn't buy my podcast. Now that's more money. So just trying to be creative and think higher level when in terms of businesses creating a podcast as an asset. Yeah,
and so this is what I love about the content game. Is that it's long-term and short-term. And right now we're talking about long-term objectives. Build your audience. If you have a show every week, if you're creating content regularly and you do it strategically, which we'll get to in a future episode. So make sure you guys are subscribed. But the assets that you're creating will continue to get found more and more on Google search and all that kind of stuff. They become pieces of content you can share on social, stuff you can send your email list. And that's the long-term asset that will attract people organically. And that's great. And what I love about that, and then let's come back to short-term goals you can set for a show. But the story about the Beatles, when they used to go into the studio, and I forget which one of them said this to the other, but they would sit down, take out their notepad and say, all right, let's write us a swimming pool. And neither of you guys ever heard this before?
No.
Oh my God. So this is right up the content alley. So they would say, let's write us a swimming pool. And what they meant was they have a raving audience of fans that when their next album comes out, they're going to make a ton of money because they've built an audience who loves their stuff so much that whatever comes out next, they're going to go buy a swimming pool. They're like, oh, let's write us a swimming pool. They write a song, they make money, and then they can go, and then they make money. So that's the key, right? That's the asset that you're building when you have an audience, is that kind of push button sales almost. And the other more modern day version of it, I I did a presentation on this last year. I should get the stats up, but like the youngest self-made billionaire, and I think maybe this was retracted for a few $1,000,000 or something, but Kylie Jenner last year, right? I think it was either early 2020 or late 2019 came out. She was on the cover of Forbes, youngest self-made billionaire. And people would argue and say, well, she's not self-made because she's part of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and Kris Jenner's evil genius and all this kind of stuff, right? But the truth is, her personal business, whatever, I think is a makeup company or something, right? That business is the one that was self-made from her. And why was she able to do it so quickly? Because she had the audience that she built through those other things, right? And so it's and look, they have their Keeping Up with the Kardashians show that built them and got them super famous and whatever, they're famous for being famous stuff, but they, to their credit, used it and turned it into these $1 billion empires. So she was able to do that because she had the audience directly. She didn't say, I want to start a makeup company and now I need to go and buy ads because I don't have anyone's attention. She had the attention. She had her own audience. And that's why it was so fast when she built her business, right? So that's awesome stuff that happens when you spend the time and you are committed to being frequent, putting in the work on a regular basis and building a show, attracting an audience, and really building a long-term relationship. Like being in someone's headphones is such an intimate relationship building thing. So we've talked about like this long-term objective. You can build an audience, push button sales, write yourself a swimming pool, right? Launch your new makeup business. And like you said, Erik, the addition on the house adds value. But what about this? When you build the audience, that's one asset. But what that gives you is when you want to sell something new, you have everybody right there that on Wednesday at noon is going to get your message and they're paying attention and they're going to hear about, your new mixer that's coming up on Friday. Oh, did I say that, by the way, guys? Everybody, if you're listening to this live, I didn't plan to do this, but it did just come up. We are hosting a PodMax mixer Friday at 11 o'clock. It is free, podmax.co/mixer. And this is a real-time example. There are subscribers and viewers of this show. And rather than having to go out and pay for advertising, we just mentioned that we're having a free mixer on Friday. And you guys are already part of the tribe. You're going to want to jump in. So make sure you go check that out, podmax.co/mixer, register for free, and we'll see you Friday at 11 Eastern. That'll be awesome. But yeah, that's the long-term stuff, is building the audience that you have and building all these content assets that are organically getting found for long-term, right? But in the short term, we always say, what's the real secret success of podcasting? It's when the camera goes off, right? It's when you're building relationships with your guests. And so I'd love to throw this out for people who are building businesses with their show. If you're getting started, you're not going to have 1 million subscribers right away, right? No one's going to, if you hit publish, build it. I know you guys have the segment, build it and they will come, but that's not how it works in the content world when you're getting started. If you publish an episode, if you don't promote it, no one's going to come and listen. So in the meantime, what you can do to get value out of the work you're putting in is, if you have a show where you have guests, use that for your business development and relationship building, right? I mean, that's really the key. That's the secret success of podcasting that people don't know about before they get started, right, guys?
Yeah, 100%. When Josh and I were doing the On Air Brand show in studio, we would often get people coming in. It was a co-working space. It is a co-working space. So, all sorts of walks of life and business owners coming in, peeking their head in to check things out. Well, we would say, hey, we're about to go live on our show. You want to sit in? You sound like an interesting fellow or gal. Well, what would happen? Like we always say, the mic happens when the magic happens when the mic turns off. They would ask us, oh, what do you guys do? I love the environment. I'm curious to know more. Hey, by the way, we have X, we have Y, we have Z. I want that stuff. And they would buy stuff from us. They would participate in what we're doing. And Josh and I would look at each other after we'd close a deal. We would say, oh my God, this is almost too easy. Our business is creating clients for us through a podcast. So, I mean, how powerful if you're able to leverage your show, see it for what it is, and understand that you're offering value, a platform, and an opportunity for someone then they're going to want to give back. That's just
Yeah.
our human nature. Is like, you feel guilty if someone's giving you all this stuff and you're like, well, I need to give you something, whether it's money or my time. It's a
the law of reciprocity.
Mhm.
It's the law of reciprocity, you know, allowing someone, but it's that and more, because if you were to cold outreach to someone that you wanted to start a relationship with, I mean, you're not going to get much attention from that, right? But if you told them that you have a show that you'd love them to come and be a guest on, that's something that gets people's attention and interest. And that's how you get your open line of email communication. That's how you get an hour and a half of time with a little pre-show, post-show talk, and the talk in the middle. And because they're a guest, you're actively listening. They're actively listening and participating in your conversation, as opposed to maybe you have a phone call with them and they're scrolling through Instagram, or they're worried about what Clubhouse room they're missing at the time. But, you know, but when you're actively on a show, you're very engaged with each other, and it is a rapid way to build a relationship with somebody. So I think that's a huge thing, you know, when you are looking at introducing a show for your business, knowing long-term, we want to be creating assets that in terms of content and audience. But in the meantime, we can use this as a relationship creator with the people that we want to attract, whether that's as clients, whether it's as strategic partners, whether it is as members of your community and client base, right? Like, I think that's a huge thing. And so with that kind of stuff, and you guys do, you know, you've been producing shows for a lot of different people and a lot of types of stuff. I want to talk about bumpers a little bit. So when a business starts a show, like really ultimately the goals of every business we're going to come align are, you know, more leads, more sales, right? If it's not adding to profit or cutting down on expenses, then where does it really fit into the business model? And so, you know, you can use a show for, like we said, attracting an audience, turning that into sales, attracting guests who could be potential partners and clients. You actually could even use your show as a way to cut down on customer support time and save on expenses there, because if you're talking about educating your customer base around stuff, then maybe they don't have to reach out to your customer support as much. You know, that's another great way to do it. There's just a lot of great byproducts of it. And actually, I wrote down here quickly, I want to circle back. Part of the process, Erik, that you mentioned when you help people think about their show before they decide to commit to that, was you mentioned going through the 5 whys and making sure that they ultimately, somewhere in that conversation, mention that they're coming from a place of serving and adding value, right? And so I want you to touch a little bit on, like, okay, what is a good podcast show approach and not a good podcast show? So are you telling me that if you want to launch a podcast for your business, you don't just talk about your products the whole episode?
Yeah, because who's tuning into a show where it's all commercials?
Right.
You know, people understand and recognize commission breath when they smell it. So you want to be very careful and cautious of, you know, the 80-20 rule. Maybe I would even say 90-10, where, you know, 10% of your content is you plugging something. When you want to do it, you know, real quick, sort of, this reminds me of when I used to listen heavily to Howard Stern's show. He started to incorporate what's called organic ads. It wasn't a pre-recorded, very identifiable section of the show where it's like, okay, this is 1-800-mattress. Well, he would just start talking to Robin and say, you know, yeah, you know, I was hanging out with my parents, and then, you know, you know, where's the oatmeal? Where's the yogurt? And, you know, this yogurt, and he would start talking about yogurt or Yoplait or whatever it was. And he was going on for minutes on it. And I'm like, why is he talking so much about this? Well, that was an organic ad. He just baked it in. We had no idea he was subconsciously planting a paid advertisement into the conversation. Mm-hmm. So if you do this over time, you'll start to get better at it. You'll start to be able to weave it in and offer value at the same time, start to weave your message through your products and services. I mean, it's really, really sort of a skill set that you'll start to develop. And another cool thing that I wanted to mention that Josh and I often do is that, and point out, is having a show or and a business, showbiz, and having it all relate, is it keeps us sharp. It keeps us on top of our game, because if you're in, you know, whatever type of, you're in the automotive business, well, isn't this show going to force you to be if you want to position yourself as a thought leader, looking up the latest trends, reading the news, talking to partners about what they envision or see the industry, where it's moving. Like, you're going to be sharper because you're going to have this reticular activation system that's kind of like, you're not going to get bored with your business, because now you're held accountable to offer value through your show. So there's, like you said, Todd, there's so many byproducts and positives to creating a show for your business. And I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you did. And I want to come back and this is something, in my principles that I tell anyone who wants to do business with me, is that, customer centricity is really what marketing should be about. Putting your customer at the center of everything. It's not about you and your product. It's about your audience and the problems that you help them solve, or the outcomes that you help them achieve, right? And that's where you have to come to the show perspective from, right? Is coming to serve and add value and being customer centric. So the great Dean Jackson, he's a legendary marketer from the I Love Marketing podcast and so many more things, but he talks about this concept of cheese and whiskers, and that when a mouse sees whiskers, he takes off running. But if a mouse sees cheese, he runs towards the cheese, right? So are you going to do a better job? Your commission breath is whiskers, right? We all have this self-defense mechanism now. When we smell commission breath, when we see a commercial on TV, we hit fast forward. We decline the spam risk phone call. We are shutting things down when we see whiskers. So what you need to do as a business to attract an audience is you need to come with the cheese, right? You need to come with the value, and you need to come from a serving perspective, right? It's not just about starting a show so you can talk about your products and services. It's about adding value for the people you want to attract, and that will build your relationship with them. I think that's huge. And the way to interweave the organic advertisements, so to speak, or how you do things like, I mentioned the mixer thing in the beginning. We got started and I said, you can go and get the free guide to launching and growing your show at onairbrands.com/show. But the way that you do those things is also about knowing the relationship and temperature of your audience and what to tell them to do next. And so if you are talking to a complete stranger or a new listener and they subscribe to your show, and in the beginning of the show, you say, hey, thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you go and buy our $25,000 product over at onairbrands.com/25,000. And now we'll get started with the show, right? Like no one's going to that link. And I don't know, maybe we should set that link up in case anybody here wants to give us $25,000 or something. But knowing that, okay, the people that are listening now, the people that we're engaging with, the next step for them is not to go over and PayPal us a ton of money, but the next step is to build that relationship and give them the next step of value that helps them along the way. And the next step in value that we can give you guys for free is this free guide on, launching and growing a show for your business, or come and join our community hangout on Friday at podmax.co/mixer and hang out and get to know the crew and the community. Everybody's awesome and always a good time. I hope the Biz Bros will be there to DJ at the end. They throw on the theme song. It's great.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. But knowing who you're talking to and what is their state of mind and what's the right next step, right? And avoiding the commission breath and just add value, give them a next step of value, and follow an ascension ladder that makes sense for the people that you're talking to. And that comes to your show content, your email content, your social content, whatever you're talking, your in-person meetings, it doesn't matter. Just, be able to understand who you're talking to and what that clear next step is. And, I think, Josh, you're one of the best people at these kind of segues and references throughout. And where did you kind of learn that? And what tips do you have for people that are like totally blank on like, okay, how would I even get started talking about something in a way like that?
I think it comes down to the other way I've put this is, how do you find your voice, right? That's something that I speak on as well. A lot of people want to know that. They realize that they don't know how to speak or what to speak on and how to communicate best. It really comes down to just doing it. You have to literally, in order to find your voice and your message, you have to speak. You have to put it out there often in various ways and see what lands. When I first started the Hidden Entrepreneur brand and podcast, which is sort of the beginning of this better iteration version of my life that I find myself in today, prior to the 40 plus years hiding, I realized that, okay, I don't have a story. I don't have messaging of what this is, what this show and this brand and the Hidden Entrepreneur means. But I could day one start talking about why and how I came up with this and what my hope or desire or fear or concern is. And I did all that on day one. All to say, we hear, right, Erik, we hear all the time from people who are a little bit fearful to take that first step. Nah, I'm actually building my new brand. So I'll wait in order to see what it is about to then start getting content around it out. No, it doesn't have to be that way. Day one, like I did, start talking about, you know what? I just left a 10-year digital marketing agency that I was running. Now I've created the Hidden Entrepreneur brand and podcast. This is what I'm hoping for it. This is what I've learned. You know what I always say, that if you do this, you'll do that. I don't know. It seems to be working. We'll figure it out as we go. I hope you'll tune in and then see who responds, see what they respond with. You're going to be surprised. People are going to be like, hey, me too. I love that you said that. And you're like, okay, that resonates. Okay, they like when I talk about that. And then write it down. You always have to be considering what you want to say and get it out there. How do you find your voice? You have to speak it. Try over and over and over again. Even to this very day, right? We still get things out there that sometimes land, sometimes don't. Nobody cares. Sometimes they do. And you just can always get it out there.
Yeah, I think action creates clarity, right? And that's something that is only going to get better when you start, right? Like you can't get better if you don't start. And like you said, it's getting out there. And the great thing about when you start a show brand new is that you don't have any listeners. And so being a little awkward as you learn and grow is okay, because you're only starting to attract a few people at the time. But the most important key in that, regardless of whether you're a beginner or expert communicator like the two of you guys are, is that what you said there, Josh, was when you just put your message out, when you talk about why you're doing something, it's what I call bat signal branding, right? It attracts the right people. And so it's about finding that message, not just for yourself. And as you take action and put stuff out regularly, you will find yourself. And if you think you found yourself already, you're going to find a new version of yourself. And that version is going to continue to improve as you continue to do this. But what's going to also happen is there's people out there that are like, man, I kind of feel that way too, but I never knew how to say it, or I didn't say it out loud, or I never thought about it that way, but you're right. And so, and that when you are being yourself and putting that out and finding your voice, you're going to attract people that you love being surrounded by. Your new business opportunities. Like, look at us here. Like, this is a magical thing that we've created here because of what we're doing, the three of us, right? Like, and I mean, maybe we have a bonus episode, Josh, where we talk about the wild synchronicities of our first 3 weeks together.
Remember that?
But you know, it really does, not to get too woo-woo, but it puts out a frequency into the universe to attract the right people to you. And then those are people, not just to say, oh, great, you're going to attract more customers, but you're going to attract customers, clients, business partners that you love working with. And you're going to wake up every day more excited because you've attracted the right people, as opposed to trying to go out, cold call, knock on doors, whatever kind of type of stuff that you're just trying to close deals and get business. And then you end up with clients that, like, some of them you like, some of them you hate, you know, some are okay, but like, you're not super excited. When you have a show for your business, the type of people that you attract, they are vibing with you and they know who they're getting in business with. And it creates not just better rapport and education for your clients, but it creates the right people and environment for yourself. And I think that's a magical thing that happens when you have a show for your business.
Let me tell you something about attracting clients. When I first started the brand, Hidden Entrepreneur, the podcast, I was not interested in the least of attracting clients or customers because I still had work to do. Yeah. I was coming from 40 plus years scared out of my mind that if I showed up doing something kind of good, that people are just going to continue to knock me down and bash me. So I'm like, okay, I'm at a point in my life, all the pieces are lining up. I no longer can do that. And I found my strong reason to not do it. But now I had to pony up and start doing it. So I wasn't looking to attract the customers or clients. I was first looking to attract one person in my court. I said, so Josh, what if you start showing up in this really capable way, and those people who you fear are going to beat you down how are you going to, now that you say what if they keep calling? What are you going to do? I thought, well, if I could just get one person in my corner as a mentor, as a friend, as a fan, then I can securely go out and do what I feel like I'm very capable of doing. And should these naysayers come knocking, I could just pick up the phone and lean on this one person. So I did just that. I showed up strongly, because if I didn't, I still would have attracted the wrong people and got into a partnership with the wrong person. So first you have to show up as positively as you want and can. And I found the one mentor who I grabbed in my corner. I hired him as my mentor to help me really create the brand and the show. And in my mind, I didn't tell him this, but I knew that that was my security blanket. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm doing it because I know if anything happens, I can pick up the phone and he'll help me through it. So there is a step before I was even interested in clients or customers. I was like, I just need people in my fan base who respect, admire, and will support what I'm doing. And then it just builds on itself.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, the last point here before we wrap up and talk about what's coming next for the show is having proper expectations, right? And so you talked about, getting started. You're not even looking to attract clients. You're trying to find your voice and attract people just into your world, right? And I talked about, it's going to take a while to build up a fan base of people finding you organically, of the word starting to spread. And so really your objectives when you start a show for your business up front should be really minor things like, one, if you want to use it as relationship and business development, so that with guests that you get on, I think is great. And we'll definitely have an episode this season about how to get great guests on your show. I have great hacks on how to do that. But the other thing too is finding it and clarifying your own voice so that you the action creates the clarity for what you want to do. And you get into a rhythm. And I think it's a big picture, long-term game when you commit to having a show, and you can't get into this and say, all right, we did 2 episodes, we didn't close any deals, shut it down, right? So proper expectations are huge when you are getting into this show business, as we are calling it, and knowing that it is going to be a commitment for you to build up, one, your own muscles to be a great content creator and to create things that are well aligned with your business, to attract your audience and to create those fans, right? So that you can write your swimming pool down the road. It's going to take a while for the content that you're putting out to organically start bubbling up to the top of Google and YouTube and getting shared on the socials and all that kind of stuff. But make sure when you start out, you have an easy place that people can go and sign up and subscribe to you. So like and onairbrands.com/show. Check that out as an example. And also check it out to sign up and get the free guide that we're putting out. But also know that it's not something that you can dabble in and expect something other than you might get lucky and catch lightning in a bottle. So if this is something that is attractive to you, you have to know that you're committing to long-term. And how you get those quick wins of your goal is, I'm going to put out a show every week for 3 months. That's the goal. And if you get to 3 months and you have a weekly episode, you won, right? It's not because you closed the deal. It's because you're being consistent and putting it out. Or I want to use this to create relationships and get good guests. That's something that you can do early on. But do not get into this show business and expect I'm putting out episode 1 and we're going to be closing deals left and right. Customers are buying on our website all day long, every day. That's not how it works. So make sure you have proper expectations for this kind of stuff when you get started.
Yeah. And it's easier now more than ever. Just a couple of years ago, whenever people would guest on my show before, the cameras and the mics turn on, they'd always say, is this being videoed? Well, folks, we all know now everything that's happened, everything that has occurred. You can just assume there's video involved, which is great because now if you do it right, and we're going to talk about this throughout the season, how do you create micro content? How do you continue to produce more and be everywhere, be ubiquitous by creating a show 1 hour a week that becomes a ton of content sprinkled throughout every day, every month. And it's just going to create such a massive momentum for you and your business and your visibility and brand awareness that, we are shining examples of that. And we have clients as well that like, wow, why didn't I do this earlier? It's easier, and it's easier because of the tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're going to be talking about in future episodes, is about how do you plan out your episode strategy so you can easily pull out all of that micro content for social. As an example, one of the brands I launched last year, end of 2019, we did about 20 episodes, and that turned into literally a year of daily social content without repeating much of the same thing, because we just created great long form content that was able to, it was planned ahead well, and the episodes were structured in a way that easily created that type of content, right? So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, because in the next couple episodes, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. How do you define your audience and attract your audience? How do you plan out your episode and content strategy in the big picture, and in this micro type of way, in the most efficient way, so that you can easily, small hinges that swing big doors. How do you do a long form episode every week and then have a process and system in place to turn it into this growth machine that Erik and I just talked about? So that's why you want to stay tuned for the next couple episodes. And you also want to make sure you go over to onairbrands.com/show to check out the hub of our episodes, get on the list, and get that free guide. And that's what we got going on. And hopefully, if you guys are catching this live before Friday at 11 a.m., come and join us and hang out at the PodMax Mixer, which is podmax.co/mixer, to get on there for free and join an incredible community, see what we have going on there. And so guys, thank you so much for letting me kick off season 2 and be the new host here. I'm extremely grateful, extremely excited. I'd love for feedback from anybody watching and listening on what we can do better, what you'd like to see more of, and any questions you have that we can answer in future episodes. So please make sure you reach out and let us know about that. Todd at onairbrands.com.
Love it, brother, and love you. Thank you for taking the wheel and driving and letting us, enjoy the scenery along the way. It's been awesome, bro. And we're looking for all the value and all the strategies and tips you're going to be providing to our audience. And yeah, like you said, we'll see you guys Friday at the Mixer.
All right. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.